Shut up and sit down.
What's the call, guys? Blaine and Al here, Pasadena, California. You can follow us on Instagram at WTC Sports Radio. A lot to get into today. We got a lot of injuries in the NFL, a lot of injuries altogether. I think two being Al and myself. If we sound a little different, I lost my voice at Landon's soccer game, screaming like crazy, man.
And I'm recovering from some sort of flu-like symptoms that me and my wife got, and we still haven't shaken it off completely. So again, we apologize up front for our voices sounding weird, but
Or you're welcome. I mean, Christina actually likes my voice like this.
oh really?
Yeah, it gives me a little more bass, a little more
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Maybe makes me a little more sexier, but
Yeah, it gives you like more of a radio voice, right?
Exactly.
right.
Yeah, Landon's soccer game was on Saturday. They went down 0-3 in the first half. And then they held the team to no goals in the second half, got 2 goals of their own, and I was just screaming for that tying goal, and it didn't happen.
How did he do, by the way, this week?
He did really good. First game, like I told you before, he scored 4 goals.
Yeah.
Beat that team 6-1. So 4 goals in the first game, 1 game in the second game. So it was early in the morning, and it was hot already, 9:00, and it was like 90 degrees. So
Yeah, well, I'm glad he's doing good.
yeah, so my voice is gone, Al's voice is gone. Week 2 is a pretty crazy week.
It was. A lot happened. Again, way too early in the season to make any kind of conclusions. But
Yeah.
but we're gonna try to give you our honest opinion and what we think are some points of strength, some points of weaknesses of some teams, some games. So we're gonna kind of do like a little recap of the entire week. I watched my team, which some of you might know is the Minnesota Vikings. I watched the Vikings versus Green Bay. Green Bay got off to a 21-0 lead in the first quarter. Aaron Rodgers threw 2 touchdowns and they ran it in one time.
Aaron Jones had a big game.
Aaron Jones had a very nice game.
I almost traded for him in fantasy football.
Man.
I almost gave up Adam Thielen, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, it's too early for all
It
of that.
is.
But, he did have a great game. He had a very good first game against Chicago, too.
It was okay.
It wasn't great, but it was okay.
Right,
Yeah, it was
right.
okay considering that they went up against the
really
Chicago-
big defense,
A really big defense.
And I mean, you guys have a great defense too, which
We do.
That was actually the deciding factor why I didn't want to trade for him,
Uh-huh.
because I didn't want to nab him going up against
The Vikings
yeah,
defense.
no, I didn't want to do that.
No,
but
he definitely did well. The Vikings went down 21-0 and mounted a comeback. They, if this was a boxing match, we easily won this game because they won
Okay.
round 1, which is the first quarter, and then the next 3 quarters, Minnesota, I wouldn't say dominated the game, but obviously,
I mean, you guys held them in check for the rest of the game.
obviously they didn't score any points. We scored 16 points. We had a touchdown taken back from us, which we'll get into in just a little bit. Missed a field goal, missed an extra point, and Kirk Cousins basically had one of his worst games as a professional.
He had a typical Kirk Cousins bad game.
Honestly, I've watched him play 18 regular season games for the Vikings, and this was his worst performance. And last year he had some doozies as well, but this was by far, he missed wide open receivers by 5 yards.
Okay.
Okay, so it was really bad. He was just off. Kirk Cousins last year had one of the top 5 greatest completion percentages of all time. And throughout his first,
Really?
yes, he completed
So back-to-back years, the Vikings had a really good completion percentage by their signal caller. Because the year before,
Correct.
they also had
Case Keenum.
Yeah.
But he wasn't as high as Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins completed over 70% of his passes last year.
Oh, wow.
So for 4,000 plus yards and 30 touchdowns and 10 INTs. So we knew we had an accurate quarterback, but unfortunately against Green Bay on Sunday, that wasn't the case. And I was
What do you think what it was? The pass rush or?
There was pass rush there, but then again, there's pass rush in every game, right? You have
Yeah.
to face the pass rush. Most of your throws are going to be from the pocket with the pocket collapsing on you. And Kirk Cousins has proven that he could stand in the pocket and make throws. There's no doubt in my mind he's done that before. I mean, Heck, if you watch week 1 against Atlanta, he only passed 10 times. And one of them was a touchdown to Adam Thielen.
Yep.
And that pocket was completely collapsing on him, and he made a fantastic throw. It was a 10-yard out to the middle of the field, and Thielen took care of it from there. He went inside. He ran the ball about 10 yards after he caught the ball. But in any case, very disappointed in Kirk Cousins. But I think the story for me here, and I don't want to have certain feelings about what happened.
He's
with the
hurt, guys. He's hurt.
Yeah,
It was the first thing he said to me when I walked in the door today. He's like, "Did you see that Vikings game?" And he had to give me his spiel. So why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners what has you so worked up?
So on the touchdown that was called back, if you guys actually go back and take a look at that play, it was called for a illegal pick, which Blaine also explained to me is also considered pass interference. That's exactly what it is, and it's a reviewable play, and that's totally fine. My point of contention here was that on that play, the referees on the field did not penalize the Vikings, and it was an easy touchdown. Then it went back to a booth review. As a matter of fact, then Minnesota almost lined up to take the extra point, and then the referee stopped the game and said New York has something to say about this touchdown. And what they did was they reversed a touchdown because they felt like one of the Vikings players, Dalvin Cook, had set an illegal pick, which again is reviewable because it's considered, although it's called an illegal pick, it's considered a pass interference, an offensive pass interference.
And these plays happen all the time.
All the time. And I think that due to the fact that I believe it's a subjective call, it's not necessarily objective to where the referee has to deem the offensive pass interference or the pick play as intentional and egregious. And to me, because they don't necessarily know the intention of the player and the egregiousness of the act, the violent of the act to set a pick on a couple players or one player or more than a couple players, I think it becomes a subjective call.
Well, it's interesting too because Al and I watched that play. I don't know how many times he watched it, but I mean, just today we watched that play maybe 4 or 5 times.
Right.
And the interesting part is that Green Bay was lined up in zone. Typically on a pick play, they call it because it's man-to-man, and then the player that's shadowing whatever receiver catches the ball is picked so hard that now that player is just blatantly open.
Right.
This wasn't the case.
No,
this was
no.
a zone,
Right.
and the guy was actually still there. He could have made a play.
Right. And then you had Stephon Diggs come from the other side of the field, across the field, and in the middle of the field, he caught the ball and ran it, or he didn't run it in. He actually basically
Dove in.
Yeah, exactly. So really, in reality, it didn't have a whole lot to do with it. I'm not, honestly, if you want to call that a pick, I don't have a problem with it. But what I'm saying is, on the field that wasn't called, we were lining up, and then New York changed it for a subjective call.
And I think this is the first time I've seen it, and I think it's just because of the new rules that are being implemented that now that pass interference is a challengeable call. I think that there's somebody in New York whose job is to be the advocate for the team who is, on the other end of that particular play or that potential penalty. And it's just it's a weird area. It's a gray area that I don't think viewers and referees and teams combined. No, I don't think anyone's used to this.
I think,
and it's the ugly side of it.
It really is an ugly thing because it to me, it truly represents the be careful what you ask for, because I really do believe that these types of calls are a reaction to what happened in last year's NFC Championship game.
Absolutely.
Where now offensive fouls, offensive penalties can be reviewed just as easily as defensive penalties. And I think it's gone one step too far. I don't think New York should be deciding on a play where a flag was not necessarily thrown on a subjective call. Now, an illegal formation, I was talking to Blaine literally 15 minutes ago about this. Illegal formations, offsides, stuff like that. These are procedural penalties.
They could just look at it and know.
It's very simple to know this dude lined up incorrectly here. You know, the tight end was not covering your left tackle or your right tackle, and so your receiver is ineligible, or illegal motion. You know, your receiver goes in motion and doesn't come to a complete stop. You
Yep.
know, or there are procedural which are concrete. You know what I mean? They're written in stone. These types of penalties are very subjective, and I'm very disappointed in the NFL.
Yeah, and I mean everyone saw the game with New Orleans and the Rams where
Again, yeah.
and actually we got to see them. This was one of the most anticipated games of the year this year, seeing the rematch, seeing if New Orleans could come back and make up for that, terrible call.
Right.
And they obviously didn't if you just look at the score.
Right.
There's a little more to that game.
Sure.
And the biggest news of that game is that Drew Brees aggravated his thumb, right? He tore a ligament
in his thumb, yeah.
So he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. In your opinion, how do you think that we kind of looked at the schedule,
Yeah.
And how do you think that they're going to fare the next few weeks?
They have a tough 5 games. The next 5 games they have on the schedule is very tough. We looked at them, but
they have Seattle.
Yeah, they have Seattle, the Dallas Cowboys. Let's see.
There was 2 winnable games there.
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay was one of them.
Yeah, they have I think a game. Let's see.
Oh, the Bears.
The Bears. That's right. That'll be a tough game. Although I don't think the Bears are, and we'll get to the Bears in a second.
They got lucky with their win. Yeah, we will get.
I think it's beyond lucky. But,
we will get there.
and so I think what it does is it eliminates the Saints from possibly, and this is my opinion, and I could be very wrong about this, but it eliminates the Saints from possibly having any kind of home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Now, Teddy Bridgewater takes over. I believe that in the next 5 to 7 games that Drew Brees is going to miss, at a minimum, they're going to lose more than half of those. When you talk about going up against the Bears, going up against the Cowboys, and at Seahawks, those 3 games, they're going to be underdogs with Teddy Bridgewater.
Absolutely.
100%, no doubt about it. I know the Saints have a very good team. They have a very good special team. They have a very good defense, and their offense is very good. But Teddy Bridgewater is nowhere near, and he's near and dear to our heart, to my heart.
Of course. Teddy Two Gloves.
Teddy Two Gloves. Yeah, he's nowhere near what Drew Brees is. And so they're definitely going to be at a disadvantage moving forward. And I think at worst, and I looked at all their schedule. I mean, there's so many games left. It's just way too early to say anything. But they will be at a big disadvantage in trying to get home field advantage and securing either the first seed or the second seed. Now that I think they'll lose 3 or 4 games while Drew Brees is out.
Yeah, I could see that. And going back to the quarterback situation, you said that they chose Teddy Bridgewater to fill his role. I was actually shocked that we saw 0 of Taysom Hill when Drew Brees went out. Because for those of you who haven't watched a New Orleans game, Taysom Hill is a very dynamic player. Was essentially drafted to replace Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And I mean, the dude could run the ball. He could throw the ball. He lines up at receiver, running back, quarterback. You usually see him 4 to 5 times a game
at least.
Where he's under center.
I don't know if you know this stat though, and my numbers might not be accurate.
Sure.
But out of every play that Taysom Hill has ran on the offense, 98% of them have been running plays.
Right.
So basically what Sean Payton, the head coach of the Saints, is saying is we need a quarterback who can read defenses. That's the one reason why I don't think Taysom Hill is playing, because we don't know if he can read defenses as a quarterback.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
And they have and to piggyback off of that, they're in a prime position. Even with the injury to Drew Brees, their record's going to take a hit. But if you look at that division, they might be one of the worst divisions in football.
They might, but
as it is right now without Drew Brees.
Sure, I agree. Although I would have to warn you, I don't think Atlanta is as bad as
that's
they played
the only
in week
exception.
1.
Carolina and Tampa Bay,
they're
are
average
so
teams.
awful.
They're average.
They're
teams.
so bad. I'm not even going to say average. Jameis Winston is abysmal in his ability to throw the ball, and Cam Newton completely forgot how to throw the ball.
Yeah, he's definitely.
I mean, he's 2 years, or what is it?
3 years,
3 years removed from his MVP.
Yeah, I believe so.
Actually, I think it's longer now that I think
Is it?
about it. It is.
Okay, so
Maybe 4 years.
Maybe because 2 years ago, you're right. 3 years ago was Matt Ryan. It was 4
Yeah.
years ago that he won it. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, because a couple years ago was what's his name, Tom Brady,
Mm-hmm.
and then last year was Patrick Mahomes. So it was 4 years ago
Yeah.
that he won a league MVP. Going back to that Rams Saints game, there was a couple of other injuries to the Rams.
Yeah, Aaron Donald, he limped off the field, but it doesn't look to be that bad. He's still
Okay.
gonna play. Tyler Higbee also got hurt. See, we're sick, man. That's what happens. We
Yeah,
need a
right.
cough button
We definitely do.
or a
We def-
mute button or something.
What's your opinion? I know again, this is all early. What's your opinion
Rams?
of the Rams? Yeah, they went to the Super Bowl last year. They're 2-0. They beat two very good teams this year. Granted, one obviously. Drew
There's an
Brees-
asterisk on this one.
Sure.
My opinion of the Rams is they're not as good as last year,
Okay.
and the NFC I think is gotten that much more competitive.
I believe
where
right.
they don't have the same route to the Super Bowl as they had last year.
I agree.
And
100%.
that call, as much as it is just one call, and I think we read a little too much into that call. I still think that
You're talking about the pass
the
interference.
Rams Saints,
Sure,
the
sure,
pass
sure.
interference. I think that a lot of things played in their favor for them to get to the Super Bowl last year. And I think that the Patriots kind of exposed a lot of how you beat the Rams, how you get into McVay's head, how do you scheme against their offense, which last year was, I think, the highest scoring offense in the NFL. And the other thing is, and we've already forgotten to talk about this in this episode, but you also have to think about Todd Gurley. He's not the player that he has been.
No.
You know, he's not. I think last year, how many touchdowns did he score last year? I think 16 or something
15,
like that.
I think-
19.
Yeah, somewhere around there. 15.
It was a crazy number, and
Yeah.
I don't even think he's found the end zone this year.
Well, he did against the Saints.
Oh, did he score?
Yeah,
Okay,
he scored a touchdown.
Oh, you're right.
on
You're
the
right.
run
You're
play.
right.
Yeah, but again, he's got a degenerative
Arthritic.
disease, really.
Yeah.
And when you use that word degenerative, that means it can only get worse. It's not going to get better. And he's a running back. We know that the shelf life of running backs in the NFL is less than 5 years, 4.5 years to be exact. And so,
And he's had a very up and down career.
yeah, he started off very
Really
good,
hot.
and then his second and third year were kind of
Second year was really
bad.
Third year was really good.
was better, and then I think last year was his fourth year, right?
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah. So I mean, he's already been in the league for 4 or 5 years, and again, he's got a degenerative knee disease or arthritic disease, and he can only get worse.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much more he's got in the tank. He played well, and they're going to I don't know, limit his carries as much as they can to kind of keep him for the offseason.
Well, they're sharing. It's a time split with Malcolm Brown right now, and then they got Henderson,
The rookie.
who had high praise coming out of training camp, but really hasn't seen a lot of action. I think that's simply because Gurley has been effective in the small times that he's played. They're just kind of putting him on a snap count, and they have Brown.
So let's talk about the NFC East real quick.
Sure.
The Cowgirls are 2-0.
Yeah. Hold your horses on that one.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended.
But-
exactly.
but-
I think I know exactly what you mean, and we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But, and the Eagles, who in my opinion were the best team in the NFC going into the season, are 1-1 now. They just lost to the Atlanta Falcons.
And
on
speaking
Sunday
of
Night
injuries, they
Football.
had some big losses.
Yeah, they did. They had a couple big ones. The defensive lineman Jackson, I believe, last week. That was in week 1.
Yeah, and then another Jackson this week.
And,
they lost to Sean Jackson.
DeSean Jackson,
who's
that's
going to
right.
be out, 4 to 5 weeks.
Right, at least, yeah.
And Alshon Jeffrey, actually, I think he was
Alshon
dealing
Jeffrey
with
has
a
a
quad injury, or
leg
something.
injury. Yeah. So, your take, real quick, on the Dallas Cowboys. What you think? They're 2-0. They have impressed so far. Dak Prescott has been fantastic. He almost became the fifth player.
He looks like Colin Kaepernick right now.
Yeah, he exactly. He almost became the second player or the fifth player in the Super Bowl era to throw 4 touchdowns in 5 consecutive games, I believe.
Oh.
Dating back to last year, of course,
Okay.
because he's only played 2 games, but he only threw for 3 touchdowns. They're playing well. The offensive line is holding up just as usual, holding up with a yellow flag. Ezekiel Elliott running the ball.
He's doing his thing.
He's doing his thing, yeah, easily. And Amari Cooper looking like Jerry Rice. I don't know how. The guy,
And Michael Gallup,
and Gallup.
who is injured.
playing
He's
well.
actually going to need surgery on his meniscus.
And then their defense, not necessarily their bright spot right there, but they've been okay situationally.
Their defense the last 3 years has gotten progressively better every
Mm-hmm.
single year. So as much as we love to hate on the Cowboys,
Yeah.
which is so fun. For those of you that are Cowboys fans, you guys make it that much more fun to hate on this team because you guys really don't have a lot to
I actually dislike the Cowboys more than I dislike the Bears and the Packers,
Oh, absolutely.
who are my rivals in our
Yeah.
division. So
I have no issue with the Cowboys in general. I mean, the Titans play them like once every 5 years. Yeah,
4 years. Yeah,
So I mean, there's not a lot for me to hate on other than their fans are just so annoying.
yeah.
But right now, if you're excited about the Cowboys, you need to pump the brakes.
I think so.
They played the 2 worst teams, definitely in their division, and
for sure.
probably 2 of the 5 worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah, the Giants are horrendous. Their defense is so vanilla. You can cut through that with a butter knife.
And they're on the field constantly. So we'll take them one by one. So the week 1, the Giants, right? Their offense is so bad that their defense is constantly on the field, and their defense is already so bad to begin with. So a tired, bad defense will make anyone look good. So that's where the high scoring comes in the last 2 weeks. Then you got week 2, play the Redskins.
Yeah.
They're
not very
missing,
good.
and they're missing their 2 best players on the defensive side.
Right.
I mean, it's just too early.
Yeah.
They're great stats, and they're really great for fantasy. I would say, now's the time to sell high for Cowboys Cowboy players.
Although I have to say, I'm looking at their schedule right now. They play the worst team in football next week, the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, so don't pump your brakes yet. Pump your
After
brakes
that,
next week.
they go at New Orleans on a Sunday night game. So that's not an easy place to win. But if Drew Brees, well, not if because Drew Brees is not playing, it's a winnable game.
Yeah.
After that, they play Green Bay at home, and then they go to the Jets.
The interesting thing about those 3 games, though, they're all very good secondaries.
Yeah.
Because you got Marshawn Lattimore with the Saints, who they then you got Green Bay, they've dedicated a lot into their secondary, and you saw that firsthand last week.
They were very good.
How many picks? 3 picks?
Yes, 3 picks.
3 picks.
One of them was definitely 2 of them actually were just absolute throws that you just don't make. One of them was in the end zone.
So you won't give them too much credit, but at least their
yes.
secondary could catch the ball.
They are very good. I'll tell you this. Anybody who's a Green Bay fan, their defense, especially with the Smiths, very good. And then they got this kid Savage in the backfield, safety, rookie. And he is fantastic.
I mean, with a name like Savage, you better be dope.
Right. And exactly. And so I think that to say the very least about Green Bay, their defense is tremendously improved.
Yeah.
That's just to say the least.
Absolutely.
They're very good.
And they did it very inexpensively.
They did it through the draft mostly, but they did spend
They
a lot
were
of money.
popping some tags. They were thrift shopping,
Yeah.
Macklemore. They definitely didn't throw out a lot of money like, the Titans threw out to Malcolm Butler or anything.
Right.
But so you got Marshawn Lattimore and the Saints. You got Green Bay secondary, and then you got Jamal Adams and the Jets. I mean, those are at least games that are going to test Dak Prescott a little more, especially now that they don't have Gallup for the next 4 weeks. That might be prime opportunity to see Zeke eat as he has been. But the Cowboys, I think, will make the playoffs.
I think they will. They have a soft schedule, and as long as they don't call penalties on their offensive line, which is already the best offensive line probably ever assembled, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They have basically 2 or 3 all pros on that line.
Yep.
2 or 3 for the last 5 years have been on the all pro team, and that's no joke. But I think they'll make the playoffs. But I think that anyone who thinks that they're Super Bowl favorites or anything like that, it's way too early for all of that.
Way too early, and they have not played anyone
yet. Let them play.
And it doesn't look like they're going to be playing anyone for a while.
Nah, yeah. I'm looking at their schedule, and here's the rest of their schedule.
That Saints game would have been.
Oh, they would have lost that game.
Oh, they would have got
whooped.
Yeah,
they would have gotten whooped by New Orleans. So they go. So they play at New Orleans, Green Bay at home, at the New York Jets versus Philadelphia, Sunday, October 20th. Then that's going
to be a big game.
Yeah, that's a big game for them. Then they go. They have a bye week, week 8. Week 9, they go at New York Giants, which is another win probably. They play Minnesota at home on a Sunday night game.
Oh, yeah. You're looking forward to that one,
I am.
aren't you?
I really am. I was telling Mandy the other day that, we could lose the rest of our games. And if we win that game, I'm going to be really happy. They go at Detroit, which is, again, a winnable game. At New England, which is a very losable game. Buffalo. Buffalo might be 2-0. They're not a bad team. They were my surprise team, and they're 2-0.
Yeah.
So who knows by that time?
I started Josh Allen on my fantasy team.
Ooh.
No, he did good for me.
Well, yeah.
He got me 23 points.
Did he get you?
He was only supposed to get me 17. He got me more. I still lost. Good. By the way, because I know some of my fantasy guys will probably listen to this. I'm just gonna come out and be honest about this. I am atrocious at fantasy football. Mm-hmm. The last 4 years, I've been so bad. So bad. I finished last, second to last, and right now I'm last.
Okay. So why do you keep on playing?
It's gambling, man. You never know what could happen. The broken clock is right twice a day.
After Buffalo, they go at Chicago, and this is the hard part of their schedule. At Chicago versus the LA Rams at home, at Philadelphia, and they finish up at home against Washington.
Yeah, that's...
So those 4 games are very difficult because, honestly, any kind of interdivision...
I never bet on divisional games.
Never.
You
right?
just never
because
know what's going to happen.
Know. I mean, for 2 weeks now, Washington Redskins, who are a very average team at best, have been up going into the second half on both the Cowboys and on the Eagles.
Yeah.
And they got, beat obviously pretty good, but they've been up going into the second half on both the Eagles and the Cowboys, who are 2 of the top 5, top 6, whatever, best teams and possibly in the NFC. But
you mentioned a team I want to talk about next. Actually,
sure.
You said a very losable game against the Patriots.
Yes.
What do you think about the Patriots right now?
They're going to go 16-0. They're going to go 16.
They're going to go 16-0.
I'm going to go through the schedule, and you tell me if they're going to lose a game.
Okay.
Or how many games you think they can go lose. By the way, they've won. Right now, they've outscored their opponents 76-3, and if you count the Super Bowl, it's like, what is it? They won 13-3, right?
Yeah.
So if you count the Super Bowl,
it's 89-6
to 6, yeah. Right? In their last 3 games, they have the Jets next week. You tell me if it's a win or a loss.
Oh, that's absolutely a win.
They go at Buffalo after that.
In
September,
it most definitely should be a win.
In September, there's no home field advantage in Buffalo.
True.
Other than the Buffalo Mafia, the Bills Mafia that
just launch each other through tables.
Then they go and play at Washington D.C.
That's a win.
Then they play the Giants.
That's definitely a win.
Then they go at New York Jets.
That's a win. Oh, what week is that?
Monday, October 21. It's still nice.
I'm just trying to figure out if Sam Darnold's still going to have mono.
Well, yeah, that's
not
true.
that matters.
No, I don't think that's going to matter in that game. Then they play the Cleveland Browns, which we think is a fun team to watch.
That'll be a really fun game. It'll
be a fun 42 to 21 game.
No, we don't know that. Hold on. Let's give and this is coming from a Titans fan who we whooped that team by 30. We made Baker Mayfield look bad. We made Odell Beckham look bad. Like Delaney Walker said, we They are who we thought they were.
right?
You still got to go out there and ball, and they didn't do it. They give them a little more time to build continuity because they're good on both sides of the line. They're good on defense, they're good on offense. They got some playmakers on both sides. Give them a few weeks, see how it clicks. That might be a competitive game. So that's one that I'll say maybe.
I think you're wrong. In any case, they go at Baltimore after that, which could be a competitive game. But here is my point. And their schedule, I'm looking at the rest of their schedule right now.
I think they have the easiest schedule.
Well, they don't. They don't. Actually, let me explain myself here. Their schedule up to that week, the Baltimore week, which is week 9, and then they go into their bye week, which is week 10. My point, Blaine, is they might not go 16-0.
Sure.
But I'm looking at their schedule, and they're going to be favorite in almost every game they play.
I think you're right about every game.
So Sunday, November 17th, coming off their bye, they go at Philadelphia. I still believe that the Patriots at Philadelphia, coming off their bye, are going to be favorites at Philadelphia. And that's how much I have confidence in this team that's going to win almost every game.
Especially, I mean, we got to see, how the injuries are going to look too.
Sure, on Philadelphia as well, or on the Patriots as well too. Then they play the girls at home, the Cowgirls at home, which I think they're going to expose them. Then they go at Houston, which is a very tough game for them. But
that's going to be a high scoring game.
Owned the Texans. If you look at the history of what they've done, there's two teams that they own. One is the Titans, and the other one is the Houston Texans. They've owned those two teams in the last 10 years or 19 years.
Titans mainly because of one game.
Their toughest game comes week 14. It's a home game against Kansas City Chiefs. And that, again, they'll be favorites in that game, but, that's a tough one. Then they go at Cincinnati, and then they finish up at home against Buffalo and Miami.
Yeah, they got it.
That's a 14.
They have a great. I mean,
that's a 14 win season.
It is,
and it's a possibility for a perfect season. There's a possibility if things fall right, if you don't get hurt, if none of your major players get hurt or go to jail, like Antonio Brown.
That's what I was going to ask you. If Antonio Brown isn't on the team, do you still give him that much?
They played against the Steelers in the first week without Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown just brings another element. I don't think Antonio Brown helps this team as much as people think, because Antonio Brown really, at this age, doesn't take the top off the defense. He's not the guy that could run down the field 60 yards and take the top off.
He's a great route runner, and he has great hands.
They already have that in their receivers and in their players.
And Edelman and
they already have all that. Exactly. So he just makes them more complete because he's better at what they do than what the currently players they have.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Edelman and them guys. So I think he does definitely bring something to the table, but I don't think it's as much as people think.
Let's take a break from like the factual NFL stuff. I want to talk about Antonio Brown a little bit.
Okay.
What's your opinion on this guy?
Well, I guess I'll let the court of opinion, which is, public perception, talk here. And the way he has acted, not just the first 9 years in Pittsburgh, but the 6 months, was it 4 months? He was with the Oakland Raiders, and then how everything transpired from there. And then now with the allegations, I think that he's not a very good, decent human being.
He's a shitty person.
Yeah, I don't think he's a good human being based off of everything that we know about him. But then again, I like to also reserve judgment because from what I understand, a lot of his character flaws or transgressions are due to
mental health
or
maybe.
Possibly the way he just wanted things to
right.
I mean,
see, that's even worse. That's using mental health as a weapon or as a vehicle to get to where you want to be.
Right.
If you look at the timeline of him, You go back to when he did that interview in the gold crown or the gold throne in
Right.
Pittsburgh, walking out in the middle of a game, calling out his teammates. I mean, the guy's just he's just mental. The guy is crazy. And who is it? Mike Greenberg, from ESPN.
ESPN, yeah.
He's getting a lot of shit right now because he said it's the most unprofessional thing he's ever seen in sports. And a lot of people are like, well, wait, what about like Ray Rice? What about this? Those are criminal.
Right.
For you to just act crazy just to get to the place you want to get, because the Patriots, I think, we're gonna give more to the Steelers than what the Raiders ultimately gave the Steelers for Antonio Brown.
Sure.
It was all premeditated, pre-orchestrated. I don't know. The guy is just he's a head scratcher.
Yeah, no, I think that Antonio Brown needs to act more professional. I wouldn't use the phrase grow up, because he's a grown ass man and you just can't grow up anymore.
He's got kids, he's got a family.
Yeah, you just need to act more professional. Just because you're a wide receiver, just because they call you a diva, you shouldn't act all crazy, act a fool, and that's what he's done.
The blonde mustache and
I read something online that said,
wait, was this today?
No.
Oh.
I read something online that said, now you know how great of a coach Mike Tomlin is.
Oh, yeah.
9 years, 9 seasons, he had to deal with this type of crap.
He's had to deal with and
so
not just from Antonio Brown,
plus
though.
the Roethlisberger, plus all that stuff. So I mean, Mike Tomlin. Well, kudos to him, man. I tip my cap to him, because that guy, not only is he
he's never
great
had a losing season as a head coach.
That's crazy. And again, I wish he was a Vikings coach, because he was the defense coordinator under Brad Childress, and we basically let the wrong person go.
There was
12, 13 years ago.
There was an article I read today. This is where I thought you were going to go with this that I saw. There's someone else coming out complaining about Antonio Brown and suing him, I think, for $11,500. You did?
I did.
The team doctor?
Yeah.
Apparently, Antonio Brown was consistently farting on this man while he's being measured for body fat. And there's a video of it, of him giggling and farting on another grown-ass man. So as much as we don't want to say grow up, I mean, I think the evidence speaks for itself. You kick and scream, you walk out on games, you fart on people. I mean, you are what you are.
You have 8 teams in the NFC, in my opinion, based on 2 games, that could possibly go to the Super Bowl. And then 2 teams with an outside chance. That's 10 teams out of 16 teams in the NFC. I have the Rams, the Seahawks, New Orleans, Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, Dallas, and Philadelphia. That are those teams legitimately all have an equal, barring any kind of injuries, have all an equal chance of really going to the playoffs. And then there is San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah,
very good team.
They're 2-0. Right? Jimmy G looks like he's exactly who they wanted him to be.
Right. So you have the San Francisco 49ers. And looking outside in is Atlanta. They did just beat my favorites to win the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, the Eagles are injured now; they're hurt.
Yeah.
But let's just say a very, very outside chance. Let's just hypothetically say that Matt Ryan has thrown a touchdown to Julio Jones in 6 consecutive games right now. Let's say he throws a touchdown to him for at least another 10 or 15 more games this year.
Man,
that would be crazy. And somehow, some way, they get into the playoffs. They have a solid defense, a solid offense, and a solid special team. There's just nothing spectacular about them.
Other than Julio Jones, which, by the way, he put on full display yesterday that he still has the same speed that he had when he came into the league. I mean,
8 years ago.
Yeah,
really.
I think he scored an 80-yard touchdown yesterday. He just burned the secondary. And he caught it like 5 yards out, so he ran a good 75 yards.
If you had to rank these teams, Rams, Seahawks. By the way, I think also the Seahawks a little overrated, I believe. Right now, they're talking about Russell Wilson is doing fantastic. He's carrying the team, but their defense is, I wouldn't call it atrocious, but they're giving up quite a lot of points here.
They're giving up a lot of points, and they can't get to the quarterback.
They gave up 20 points to Cincinnati in week 1 at
But
home.
look what they're doing, stopping the run. If you look at, I think they've only given up like between 60 to 80 yards combined in the first 2 weeks.
Okay.
So they have a really good, and this is kind of backwards from what the Legion of Boom used to be. They're stopping the run, but giving up a lot through the air.
So hypothetically speaking, if I were to ask you to rank these teams, Rams, Seahawks, New Orleans Saints, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, Chicago Bears, Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, what would your ranking look like based off of 2 weeks of watching football here?
Based off of 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks. And barring injured, like not considering, let's say if Drew Brees played. Barring.
So
I want to know what, based off of 2 weeks, what your ranking of these 8 teams would be in week 17 going into the playoffs. That's what I want to know.
I still would put the Saints at the top.
Okay.
And then I would put the Eagles number 2, Rams number 3.
Okay.
And then I would put
and then everybody else, right? So
everybody else. Yeah, but
Seahawks, Green Bay, Chicago.
What I will say about that, now that injuries have happened, the Rams are the best team in the NFC right now.
Right. I can't disagree with you.
Because they've been lucky enough to not have any.
Because I don't think, although I do think Green Bay is really improved on defense, and that was their Achilles heel, I don't think they've improved that much to where I could say they're better than the Rams or the Eagles or even the Cowboys, because Aaron Rodgers is not the same player.
He's not the same player, and he's got to get on the same.
Yeah, he's still a top 3, top 2 quarterback in the league. He's still probably the best quarterback I've ever seen play that position. But
he's on his way down.
He's on his way down. He doesn't make those plays that he used to. He could still make them, but he just doesn't make them anymore.
And he and Matt LaFleur need to get on the same page right now, because 2 weeks in a row they clearly haven't been. Just this last week, you see Aaron Rodgers yelling at Matt LaFleur, pointing at his helmet, like,
right.
What the fuck are you calling? But, they're as improved as they are. They're a team that you got to wait and see. I put them in the same category as the Cowboys. As good as they look, or as their record shows, we got to see what they look like towards the middle of the season.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It looks like, as of right now, in the AFC, I'm going to ask you the same question. Obviously, there's 3 teams that are really good, the class of the AFC right now. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. Looks like Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson if he continues what he does. And then New England, obviously, is right now the best team in the NFL, both offensively and defensively.
They're in a league of their own.
They are. They're just playing the best offense and playing the best defense.
The PFC.
They are, yes. Those 3 teams are the class of the AFC right now. But then you have teams like the Cleveland Browns, which we talked about. You have teams like the up-and-coming Buffalo Bills. You have the Indianapolis Colts, Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans outside looking in, but they're definitely. And then the Chargers are 1-1, and they won 12 games last year.
Yeah, their injuries though are killing them. I mean, Hunter Henry, man, what are you made of glass? Like, what's going on?
I mean, he plays like literally 2 games a year, literally for the last 2 or 3 years. So
I mean, that kid's got all the talent in the world. I mean, my heart goes out to you, but wish you could stay on the field.
Yeah. So if you had to rank the top 3 teams, obviously New England being number 1, who would you have as number 2, Baltimore or Kansas City?
Oh, absolutely Kansas City.
Okay.
It's not Baltimore's time yet.
Yeah.
But they're the little brother that's ready to make his move. They're right there.
I agree. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that are kind of outside looking in. They're like the second tier.
Sure.
So you would have Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee Titans, the Chargers, the Bills, and the Cleveland Browns. how would you rank those guys 4 to 10?
I would have to put, just because of the ability that he has at the quarterback position, Deshaun Watson, I have to put the Texans
I agree 100%.
right at the top of that second tier.
Yeah, I do too.
I think the second, just based off of talent and ability, would have to be the Cleveland Browns.
You think so over the Chargers?
I do. The Chargers have, aside from Hunter Henry, they have injuries on the offensive line. Phillip Rivers is out there just like a chicken without his head, trying to get the ball out. If it wasn't for Austin Eckler being able to create plays when plays break down, I think they would be in a whole world of hurt right now. Mm-hmm. Then you got the whole Melvin Gordon thing looming over their head.
Which, by the way, Melvin Gordon and his agent announced that this is not going to be a Le'Veon Bell thing. What that tells me is
that he'll come back and
Dude's
play.
going to play week 8, basically, to be active so he can get paid his 50 or guarantee or whatever it is.
Did you see that interview with Le'Veon Bell, by the way, where he says that he won?
He didn't win.
He didn't win.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
I mean, my God, how stupid are you?
Yeah.
You absolutely did not win that. You got the same amount of money that you were crying about from a team that, it doesn't have the same ceiling as what Pittsburgh had. I mean, that's crazy. But going back to the Chargers, I don't think
you don't think the Chargers are going to be as good as Cleveland, huh?
No.
Okay. So, what do you think about Indianapolis, Tennessee? We know Houston, let's say they're 4th by themselves, right? What do you think about Indianapolis, Tennessee? Buffalo's 2-0, and they were my surprise team, and so
I think I'd have to put Buffalo ahead of the other two.
Okay.
And I think the other two are just tied.
Really? You think that they're better
do.
than Indianapolis and Tennessee?
I do. See, I don't think Indianapolis is as bad as people think they are.
I don't think they're bad at all.
Because we kind of talked about this.
Did.
They're one field goal away from being 2-0.
And really, if you think about how good that team was, that team has a great offensive line. It has a very good defense. So, and Jacoby Brissett is a very, very serviceable quarterback. He might even be better than serviceable. It's way too early to judge him, but hear me out though. How much production are they going to lose from Luck to Brissett, and how is that going to affect their record? Remember, they went to the playoffs and they almost went. Did they go to the second round? They didn't go to the second round.
I think they did go to the second round.
They might have even won a playoff game.
I think they did win a playoff
game. They did,
game.
yeah. And they lost to Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they lost to the Patriots, but I can't remember. I can't remember. We could look that up.
In any case, I do think that Indianapolis is a very underrated team.
By the way, feel free to DM us if we get something wrong factually and correct us.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely don't mind that, because most of the information, the stats that we throw out there is based on something that we heard, and so we don't write these things down,
or that we saw and just are remembering incorrectly.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we try not to throw out any kind of inaccurate stuff out there, information, because most of the information that we have is either from, watching TV, looking at the internet, social media, stats and stuff like that. So, I would never say that Dan Marino threw for 700 touchdowns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that he threw for 430 something touchdowns. That was the record until Brett Favre broke it. And then he was 508, and then Peyton Manning was 509.
Yep.
He finished up obviously with 530 something or 540 something. But what I'm trying to say is sometimes the numbers are not going to be exact, but they won't be. It won't hurt.
They'll be close enough.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll make us look good.
Argument. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It won't hurt our argument. So.
Going back to the Colts,
yes.
How much do you lose going from Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett? I think a lot. I
don't think so.
Oh, I don't
think so. I think that was a very, very good football team, Blaine. I think it was a very good football team. It was on its way up. You look at what they did, how they turned it around. Yes, they only won 9 or 10 games last year. I'm not sure, one or the other, and they were a wild card team. But hear me out on this. They were awful the year before that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was without Andrew Luck. So Andrew Luck was not complete. But you look at why they got so much better last year. it wasn't all Andrew Luck. It was the play of the offensive line and the play of the defense that made them what they were last year. I'm telling you this right now. It wasn't Andrew Luck. Now, Andrew Luck had something to do with it because he came back healthy. He literally threw, what did he throw for, like 35 touchdowns last year or something like that?
Yeah, he had an insane year last year.
Let's just hypothetically say that based on the stats that we know right now, Brissett throws for 25 touchdowns.
It's not okay. So
you're talking about intangibles, leadership, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Honestly,
and ultimate record. Does the team get that much worse with Jacoby Brissett? No, but I think that Andrew Luck did enough to like push them over that hump. That Jacoby Brissett, just no fault of his own, is going to be able to replicate. Because you're right, they do have a good defense. They have a fantastic offensive line. Maybe top 5 in the NFL.
It is, yeah, I think it is.
Marlon Mack has become the bell cow on the Colts in terms of who their running back is. Right. They got playmakers on the outside. I think they just lost Devin Funchess in week 1, but they got T.Y. Hilton. They have Eric Ebron. Mm-hmm. So they have weapons. We got to see him play a little more.
Yeah, again,
to really know. Because they were a top 3 Super Bowl favorites. I think they were like 7-1 or something like that, and then they dropped down to like
once Luck retired.
They just plummeted.
Out of the top 20. Yeah, definitely. I still think that Houston is the 4th team, and then between the rest of the remaining teams, I still think the Chargers, because of the continuity they've had, although they had a lot of injuries. But they've played with injuries the last 3 or 4 years. They won 12 games last year. I think they won 10 games the year before that. So, with the fact that they have consistently won 10+ games the last couple of years, I think the Chargers are the 5th best team. Beyond that, I think Indianapolis, Buffalo, Tennessee.
You have Tennessee bringing up the bottom. Yeah, I do too. And we mentioned this a few times. I'm a Tennessee Titans fan. As much as I'm pleasantly surprised with what I've seen thus far. I mean, the complete dismemberment of the Cleveland Browns. We had the ability to bring it to the Indianapolis Colts, who without Andrew Luck, and we just didn't get it done. Yeah. Lost by 2 points. I mean, we couldn't score at the end. As good as our secondary is, we need a little bit more. We should not be in the playoff. The playoff picture
right now, yeah. And I think, honestly, for me, Cleveland's overrated, but you're right, they're fun to watch. I don't think that they should have been, what were they, like 5th favorite or 6th favorite or something like that. They were definitely in the top 10 when the odds came out in Vegas a few months ago. I don't think they're as
And they got off to a slow start yesterday.
They did, yeah, and they got their ass whooped week 1. So I mean, what does that say about the team? Yes, they have OBJ, Landry, they have Baker Mayfield, Chubb, and then on defense they have a bunch of playmakers. But I still think that they still haven't found the recipe to bring it all together.
Exactly,
and that could take a year. It could take 3 weeks. I don't know, but again, based off of what we saw the first 2 weeks. They are not necessarily going to be world killers.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, I mean, I mentioned I watched a little bit of that game yesterday. He just looks really panicked when that pocket falls apart. And his size, unlike Russell Wilson, because, I mean, Russell Wilson's 5'10". But when the pocket collapses, he still plays like he's a 6'2", 6'3" quarterback.
Right.
He's still working through his progressions. He's still looking down the field before he just looks to run. Yeah. Baker Mayfield, I mean, he just looks really panicked back there.
Yeah, he really does right now. But let's see if he gets comfortable as the weeks go on. Let's move to week 3's games.
Sure.
Let's bring up the schedule. Let's bring up the lines, the spreads, and see who you like, and maybe we can make a habit of picking these games and figuring out who wins at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. First game of the week is going to be Titans versus Jags.
That's on Thursday. That's in a couple of days. Yes.
Yeah.
What's the line on that, and where is that being played?
Let's look that up.
Well, the bottom team is Blaine and
Oh, of course. I know they're going to be playing in Jacksonville.
in Jackson.
But you want to see what the
Florida.
spread is, right?
The spread's right there too. Yeah, on the right under the time right there.
Is the spread there?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Tennessee's favored by 1.5.
Tennessee's favorite, and the game is in Jacksonville.
It is.
I like Tennessee because I think their defense is actually better than Jacksonville's defense right now. Offensively, I think both teams are challenged, but the fact that
Nick Foles isn't playing. They got their rookie quarterback in there. They don't have the same playmakers that Tennessee does. I mean, their best options are D.D. Westbrook and Marquise Lee. You know, they don't have the Delaney Walkers, the Derrick Henrys.
Well, they have
the Corey
Leonard
Davis. They have Leonard Fournette,
right?
But he hasn't been as dynamic as he has been in the past, and he's a little smaller this year too.
Is he? I haven't even seen him.
Yeah, I'm with you though. I like Tennessee in this game.
Tennessee
and
in this game.
Their record against Jacksonville in the past 4 years, I think Jacksonville's only beat Tennessee maybe twice out of the last 10 times.
So it's 1.5. So that means Tennessee has to win by 2, right?
Yeah.
Tennessee's favorite. Okay. What's the next game?
Next game is Bengals at Cincinnati at Buffalo.
Cincinnati at Buffalo.
Yeah, and Buffalo's favored by 6.
By 6 points. I think that's a lot of cheese because, again, during the months of September, and I mean, you look at what Cincinnati did against Seattle the first week, going into Seattle and being up until, basically the last few seconds of the game. I actually think that Cincinnati is a pretty decent team.
Yeah, they're
going to lose a lot of games.
They are going to lose a lot of games, but this
is
one of the games that they could win.
Yeah, I don't think they're as bad as, say, the Giants or the Dolphins. They're going to lose a lot of games, but I think Cincinnati...
Or Tampa. I think they're better than Tampa Bay, too.
It's definitely a possibility. After 2 weeks, for sure they are. I like Cincinnati plus 6.
Okay.
Going because, again, I think, Buffalo was my favorite to be a surprise team.
Yep.
They were at the top of my list, but I still think that being 2-0, and they could easily win this game, but I think that giving up 6 points at home with no real advantage as far as weather is concerned up in New York.
Yep.
I think that I like Cincinnati plus 6.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I agree.
Right, so Cincy plus 6.
Next game is Miami at Dallas. And Dallas is obviously favored. Do you want to guess?
Well, last week at home they were 19-point underdogs,
right,
against the New England Patriots. Going into Dallas, I'm going to have to say it's probably 16 or 17 points.
It's actually 21.5.
Okay, so that's completely off the boards.
Vegas
does not, necessarily allow bets. I like Miami in that game easily plus 21.
Yeah, I
like Miami.
You know what? I'm gonna go the other way on this one.
You like minus 21.
Yeah, I'm definitely going the other way on this one. I think that
here's the first minus 21. That means they have to win by 4 scores. Think about that.
Yeah,
4 scores.
In 7 years ago.
And 7 years ago, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so there is the first one. What's the next game?
Next one is going to be Denver at Green Bay.
Denver at Green Bay.
Green Bay's favored by 7.5.
7.5 points. I don't know. I feel like I like Denver here, and I'll tell you why. So I'm definitely taking Denver plus 7.5. That means Green Bay win by 8. The reason why I like that is Vic Fangio. And we didn't even talk about the Bears. They're America's luckiest team, I call them, for the last 20 years. We didn't even talk about how they should have never won that game. The two final plays of the game, roughing the passer, which was definitely not roughing the passer, and then the pass that Trubisky did, the timeout. Yeah, they shouldn't have been called. There was less than 1 second left when the timeout was called, and so again, I think that Vic Fangio knows how to play the Bears, the Packers, and the Vikings. So anytime Denver plays any other NFC North teams, I think he knows tendencies about that team. That's why I like Denver. Plus 7.5 points.
And like you said, it's a September game. There's really no home field advantage.
As far as weather is concerned, there is a home
Exactly.
field advantage for when it comes to referees. I learned that the hard way last week.
Unfortunately.
You
The
know-
Packers also have been in a bunch of close games, or not a bunch, but their 2 wins were really close. I agree with you. I like the Broncos in this.
It's kind of crazy because Denver is not, to me, they're not a very good team, but they're going to be in a lot of close games, I feel like,
Yeah.
with Vic Fangio as their head coach.
I think they cover the spread. They still lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next game is going to be Atlanta at Indianapolis.
Atlanta at Indianapolis. What's the line on that?
It's actually Indy -2.
Really? I like Atlanta in that game. I'm not sure why, but I feel like with Brissett at the helm, I don't think. See, here's the thing. Here's what I think about the Indianapolis Colts. Their home field advantage to me is not that big without luck.
Right.
I think they're going to be both good at home and on the road, but I don't think they'll have a significant advantage at home because of Brissett.
And just for people that don't know, when you're at home, it's basically you're getting 3 points. So when you see this, when it's Indy -2, essentially what Vegas is telling you is that Atlanta's still going to win by 1.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna agree with you. I like Atlanta.
What's the line again?
It's Indy -2.
So Atlanta +2.
Yeah,
You have Atlanta.
essentially win by a field goal. I think they win by
+2.
a lot more.
Atlanta.
I think
Atlanta wins
Indy
the
gets
game
exposed.
outright.
They really haven't played.
I agree.
Tennessee's offense isn't high powered. The Chargers were limited, and that was a really good game, by the way. It came down to a field goal.
I thought it went to overtime, right?
It did go to
It did,
overtime.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
but Adam Vinatieri missed his field goal.
Right. That's right.
So I like that one. The next one is Baltimore at Kansas City.
That's a big game. That's somebody's going to come out with their first loss of the
That's going to
season.
be so much fun.
Yeah, Kansas City is not very cold in September, so the weather is going to be good. Again, we like that as far as, not having that weather effect on the game. I like Kansas City to win this game.
I do too. I do too.
I think Baltimore for the first time gets really exposed. Remember the first game they won, at 40-something points against Miami.
Yeah.
Miami is basically a junior varsity team. And then Lamar Jackson doing well for Baltimore. I think he'll get exposed. Although I don't think Kansas City's defense is very good, but they're situational.
They're not, and they're missing their best defensive player too.
What's the line in that game, by the way?
Kansas City 6.5. Yeah, that's a really
still
small
think-
line.
I still think
Kansas City is going to smoke them by more than 2 touchdowns.
I believe so, yes.
Like I said earlier, Baltimore's the little brother. This is where Big Brother has to come in and put him in check.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the next game?
The next one is the New York Jets at New England.
Okay, what's the line on that?
And the line is New England. Do you want to take a guess?
I think at New England, the Jets, I think it's a 12-point line.
It's actually a 22.5-point line.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a lot.
For a division game?
It's a division game. Sam Darnold's still, mono at home.
Wow.
That's still
honestly, I don't know which way to go on.
And we
this
don't
one.
know if Antonio Brown's going to be playing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me. That's not going to sway my opinion. I just think that for a division game, although last week was a division game and it was a massacre.
And Miami usually gives it to New England.
They do. There were New England was 1-4 in the last 5 games against Miami.
One of them being that play where they put Gronk in as a safety.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know which way to go on this one, but 22 is a lot of cheese. I'm going to take the Jets plus 22.
I wouldn't touch that game at all.
Yeah,
but
no, I wouldn't,
But
but-
if I had to, I'd probably take the Jets as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have to pick. Plus 22 is a lot of points. The Jets are not as bad as Miami, nowhere near Miami, although they're missing some pieces. But
Yeah.
Miami is just an awful football team, whereas the Jets are not an awful
They're not.
team.
They got some pieces. They got Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, I think I like the Jets.
When you
plus
have
22.
a running back that can kind of control the tempo and keep the ball on your side of the field, you're not really going to see a lot of points or disparity like 22.5.
Yeah,
I would definitely take the
take
Jets as well.
yeah,
The next one is the Detroit Lions at Philly, and Philly's favored by 6.5.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that's a really tough one, but I still like Philly to cover on that one.
Yeah, I think Philly covers on that
Plus
as well.
6.5. You like Philly?
It's also another game I probably wouldn't touch.
Yeah, it's
just because their receivers are so banged up.
Yeah, they're banged up. Detroit.
They actually lost their tight end as well. What's his name? Godert?
Not sure which one you're talking about.
Or Goder? I always want to say it like
Like
a French accent.
name.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The Goedert. He's their second tight end. Plays opposite of Zach Ertz.
Yeah, not sure about
Anyways,
him,
he's injured too. So I mean, they got three guys, and their running game still hasn't really developed. I've been waiting for Miles Sanders to kind of show his stuff. He hasn't. He hasn't yet.
Right.
So that's going to be a tough one to bet on. But you like the Eagles in that.
I do. I still like the Eagles at home. They're very tough at home. That crowd.
Yeah.
They basically throw batteries.
See, I like Eagles fans. As much as I hate Cowboy fans, I think Eagles fans are great.
Because they're more realistic.
They're more realistic and they're more fun.
Yeah,
they're
they
not
are.
obnoxious.
Well, they throw batteries at you is what they're famous for. The link
they throw batteries at you?
batteries. Ask Michael Irvin, and then the stories are rampant in the NFL about how crazy they are. You know, in the old stadium they had a jail cell inside the stadium, right? Before Lincoln Field, the old Veterans Stadium.
Okay.
They had a jail cell inside the stadium for rowdy
obnoxious fans.
Yes,
oh wow,
yes. It's
that's
pretty crazy.
insane.
Yeah, so Philadelphia fans crazy. But
don't fuck with them.
Do not. Yeah. Don't.
Okay, gotcha.
What's next?
Next one is Panthers in Arizona. Panthers are favored by 2.5. I'm gonna start with this one because you know what? I'm sick and tired of betting on Carolina.
Okay.
Because they're supposed to be a lot better than what they are right now, and I never bet on Thursday games. Al and I are in a pick'em league, and I don't like betting on Thursday games because if you lose that one, it really just takes out the fun the rest of the week. And last week I had bet on Carolina beating Tampa Bay, and it didn't work out. And so I'm not touching this one either.
Although to be clear, this is not a Thursday game.
This is not a Thursday game,
right?
But I'm just sick of betting on them.
Sure.
And I'm really bitter about losing out on a Thursday. I'm actually going to take Arizona in this one, even with Carolina favored by 2.5 points. Kyler Murray, as much as he's struggled, he still moved the ball pretty well, and he threw like for over 200 yards in the fourth quarter in game one. So
yeah, he did. They were down big, and they tied the game with Detroit, and he had a very good second half or the end of the game and overtime. But again, he's definitely struggled. Let's see how it goes. I think Carolina is.
They're due.
I wouldn't say they're due because
Cam's hurt as well. He hurt his foot.
He is. We don't even know if he's going to play. I like. Did you say Carolina was a 2.5 point favorite?
Yes, sir.
I like the home dogs. I like Arizona on this one.
Good.
Plus 2.5.
You
said you like Arizona too.
I
right?
do. Yeah. Here's a bottom of the barrel game. New York Giants at Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ooh, man. It's basically who's bringing up the rear.
For real.
Yeah.
Who's watching this game? That's what I want to know.
You know, I'm interested. Because today Daniel Jones,
you're right.
I'm not going to sit down and watch the entire game, but you know, he was announced as the starting quarterback of the New York Giants.
He better be really good.
Well, if you spent the sixth pick or the seventh pick overall, whatever it was, and he was supposed to be
he would have
there,
still been there.
Second round, he might have been there.
Yeah.
You know, he was projected to be a second rounder. So what's the line in that game?
That one is Tampa Bay favored by 6.5 points.
At home.
I'm not sure that this reflects the quarterback change, and I'm also not sure if the quarterback change would have any effect on the spread. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Tampa Bay's favored by 6.5 at home.
You know what? I like the Giants. I like the Giants plus 6.5. I really do.
I'm going the other way on this.
You're going the other way.
I'm going perfect. Tampa Bay.
Thank God, because we definitely need to go the other way on some of these. Tampa Bay minus 6.
Well, some of these are pretty obvious. I mean, you would think. But I like Tampa Bay in this for a couple reasons. One, I think that Peyton Barber kind of established himself as the best running back on that team. I think they're going to give him a few more touches. I think they're going to move the ball a little better on the ground. And I think Jameis Winston needs to figure it out, man. I mean, he's had 2 atrocious games With Bruce Arians running that offense, typically you see a more high-powered offense.
Yeah.
I think give them the benefit of the doubt. 2 games in the books. I think they figure it out. The third game, I think they cover the spread 6.5. Next game is the Houston Texans at the LA Chargers. The Chargers. This is essentially a pick 'em. Chargers are favored by 3 points.
Okay, Blaine and Al. You think that
I like the Texans in this game.
Yeah, I mean,
The Chargers don't have a home.
they
field
do not
advantage.
have a home field advantage. They play in the
In the Home Depot Center
Home
or
Depot
whatever.
Center,
it's actually
Carson.
not. What is it? StubHub. Center?
StubHub Center or something
Whatever
like
it's
that.
called.
It's
StubHub, San Diego.
Yeah, it's the smallest stadium in the NFL. It's like it seats like 35,000 people. It's really not very good. Most of the fans are fans of the opposing team, but they are favored by 3.5 points, and I like the Houston Texans.
Yeah, me as well. I think that's
Plus
it.
3.5. HOU plus 3.5.
Yeah. The next game we have on the list is Pittsburgh versus San Francisco. At San Francisco, San Francisco's favored by 6.5 points.
Yeah, I like San Francisco. I think San Francisco wins that game.
Yeah, this is primed for Jimmy G to just pick apart
right.
That defense. Obviously, Big Ben's not going to be there out the whole year. I think Steelers are in a whole world of mess.
Big,
giving up a first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Oh,
and they're going to play him at safety, I believe.
Well, he's already a safety.
Really? He was playing cornerback in Miami, but Pittsburgh announced today that they're going to move him to safety.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did. So
he was a safety in college, though, wasn't he?
I believe he was.
Okay.
I believe he was. Yeah, but he was more of an in-betweener. I mean, he's he's a very small safety. But
whatever they were running in Miami, I mean, it didn't really matter what position he was at.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Jimmy G is definitely gonna take this one. So I absolutely like the 49ers 6.5 point favorites. Next game is New Orleans Saints at Seattle. Seattle is favored by 4 points.
Yeah, I like Seattle. That's a home field advantage no matter
It
what
always
month
is.
it is.
Exactly.
No matter what month, September or December, and anything in between. I like Seattle -4.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Seattle -4.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that the Saints are going to be as bad as how people are perceiving them to be
Without Drew Brees.
Drew Brees, but this definitely ain't the one.
Mm-mm.
This isn't the one to pick
not.
them. The next one is LA Rams at Cincinnati Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
Yes.
We're a few glasses of champagne in.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know who the Cincinnati Browns are.
All right, so what's the line on that?
It is the Rams favored by only 3 points.
At the Cleveland Browns?
At Cleveland.
I like Cleveland in this game. I think this is
I don't. I like the Rams
all
on
right,
this
fantastic. You want to place a wager on this one? +3. I like the home dog. You like the Rams.
one. I do.
All right, +3 or -3. The Rams are -3. Yeah, I don't think the Rams are going to travel well
This is the
period.
Sunday primetime game, by the way. It's Sunday night game.
Got it. Okay.
So that's actually going to be a really fun game to watch.
Okay.
So I don't know. I as much as I go to bat for the Browns, is I think they're fun and I think they're going to take some time to figure it out. This is going to be their first real big challenge.
Right. And the reason why I think is because knowing their personality of Chubb, of Baker Mayfield, of OBJ, of Landry, I think these guys shine in the spotlight. I just think it's when they play teams like Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee Titans, when they play down to those teams' level, and I don't think they're going to do well. But I think on this one, I think they're going to show the world that they are capable of winning 10 games.
I think
this year.
Aaron Donald makes Baker Mayfield look very silly because this is the best defensive player that he's seen thus far.
Yeah, but it's not the best defensive team, though. The Rams are not necessarily.
No, they're not. They're absolutely not. But where the Rams thrive, it's all about, and we know this watching football our whole lives, it's all about matchups. Has nothing to do with this is the best this, that's the best that.
Right.
It has to do with how you match up. So Baker being very kind of sporadic under pressure, I mean, the Rams have a really good pass rush, so I don't know. I don't like that matchup in favor of the Browns. I think the Rams take it. You like the Browns in that one.
I do like the
Got
Browns
it.
in that one. Although I don't think that the Browns are necessarily that good. I think that you talk about matchups and you talk about primetime games under the lights and all that stuff. I think this is why I like Cleveland at home.
Fair
Home dogs in the NFL. I mean, that's rare, man. That's just rare.
Fair enough. The last game of the week on Monday is going to be the Chicago Bears at Washington Redskins. Chicago's favored by 4 points.
Again, I like the home dog on this one.
I'm going to go the other way. I like the
Yeah.
Bears in this one.
Yeah, Washington.
You think
plus
Washington
4.
gets their first win this week?
They've played 2 close games.
They
I
have.
don't think they're as bad as people think. Now, they're not a very good team, or they're not even a good team, but I don't think they're as bad as people think. So Chicago -4. I mean, maybe, you know. And by the way, you said the last game of the week, and you didn't even talk about my Minnesota Vikings, which were
Oh, you know what? You're right. I am so sorry.
Nah, don't worry about
The
it.
reason being is because I'm actually looking this up on Al's phone. And he has this cute little favorite section
Oh, yeah.
on the top.
So it moves basically the game that we're going to play at 10 o'clock in the morning Sunday against
does.
the Raiders to the top of the list, and so it really doesn't show
Yeah,
up.
so Sunday morning we got the Oakland Las Vegas Raiders at Minnesota Vikings. We got Minnesota favored by 8 points.
Okay, I think Minnesota whoops that ass. I really
Yeah.
do. I think that the Raiders played Denver very tough, very well in week 1. They won that game.
Yep.
And that was a rivalry, a division game, and it was always going to be close. And Raiders pulled it out. I think that last week they got really annihilated after the first quarter by Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. I think he threw for like 3 touchdowns in a quarter.
That was so awful. I mean, they went up 10-0,
10-0. The Raiders were up 10-0,
and then they just got smacked.
they really did. And-
In the exact way that everyone thought that game was going to go.
right, except we thought it was going to happen the first and the second quarter, but
Right.
it didn't really happen until I like Minnesota in that game. I think Minnesota wins that game ugly. And I mean, when I say ugly, if you looked at what happened in week 1 against Atlanta was down 28-0 in the fourth quarter almost.
Yeah.
They scored a couple garbage time touchdowns and they made it. They made the score look better. I think this is the same thing. I think Minnesota wins this game. 28-10, 28-7, something like that. Maybe the Raiders even score 13 or 14 points.
I don't even think they scored 13 or 14. I think that defense is way too much.
At home,
Tyrell
it's-
Williams might not play. So who is, first of all, Derek Carr could barely throw as is. Who is he going to throw to?
Yeah.
Also, Josh Jacobs, I think, is a little banged up. So
He
I
is
mean,
banged up. Yeah, they're running back from, I think he went to Alabama, right? Yeah, he did go to Alabama.
I believe so, yeah.
I think Minnesota, before you even, when they come out the tunnel, I think they're going to be up 24-0 or something like that, and the game's going to be over.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins needs to have a makeup game.
He really does. And
if he doesn't, who's your guys' backup?
Sean Mannion.
Ooh.
Yeah, really bad. And then I don't know who the third string is. But
I mean,
that guy might get some PT this year.
He was drafted by the Rams, and they still didn't play him when Jared Goff got pulled. So
that's right. He's not that old though, right? Or is he old? I think he is old. No.
No, he's not that old.
No?
I think he's in his mid-20s.
Okay, I didn't even know. Yeah, I thought he was like a 35-year-old journeyman.
No, not at all. I think this is only like his fourth or fifth year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Minnesota in that game. You like Minnesota also -8. I think they win that game hands down.
Yeah.
Pretty easily. Well, that's all the games for week 3.
A lot of big games coming up.
A lot of big games coming up.
That Baltimore Kansas City one. That's one I'm looking forward
That's
to.
a big
the
one.
most.
That's a big one. I like. I think the Houston Chargers one is really going to set the table for who is in that second tier. Who's like the number 1 team of that second tier that we talked about? Obviously, Kansas City, Baltimore, and New England are the top 3 teams in the AFC. But we talked about the second tier team, and I think that Houston Chargers game is going to set the table on who becomes the leader of that pack.
Yep.
You have the Seattle game. That's Let's see how that goes. And then the Rams. you know.
Rams, yeah. Even the Titans Jaguars game as is
on Thursday.
I mean, you got a lot of middle of the pack teams in that division.
And,
so
yeah, and again, I usually like taking home dogs, but this one, I just think that without Nick Foles, and they're kind of banged up too.
And Jalen Ramsey's got one foot out the door in the Tennessee locker room already.
Yeah, he's already.
So maybe, who knows? About that, next episode, maybe Jalen Ramsey will be a Titan.
So let's see here. We got one game here that we picked against each other. Then we have 2 games right here. I like the Giants plus 6.5. You like Tampa Bay minus 6.5. That's 2 games. Then we have the Rams and the Cleveland Browns. That's 3 games. You like
the Browns. I like the Rams.
Then I have Washington plus 4. You have Chicago minus 4.
Yep.
So that's 4 games. 4 games that we picked against each other. Everything else was identical.
Yeah, we'll see where the cards fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week again. Go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram, and we'll see you next episode. Take care.
Bye.